It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games and the gaming industry, coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch, and archived almost anywhere you can find podcasts. Welcome this evening. If you are in North America, it's late evening. If you're in more of an eastern part of the world, it's sometime during the day. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ash. I'm here with Subsidian and Moontag, as always, and I hope you're all doing well out there. I hope that everybody dealing with lockdowns and continued things with the world situation are doing well. And that's particularly on my mind tonight, simply because I found out earlier tonight that somebody who I knew, who had a profound impact on me when I was a bit younger, had sadly passed away, and the circumstances of it are they have to do with the lockdowns and the disease, and that disease I can't even say because of stupid YouTube rules. But anyway, I just hope everybody's doing all right, and we're glad to see our community come together during this whole situation, and our Discord server just really kind of exploded as people were looking for online interactions. So really glad for that, really glad for you all, and I welcome you here tonight. So we have quite a bit to talk about. We're going to be talking a lot about the acquisition of Bethesda by Microsoft, and we want to know what you think of it. We want to know your opinions, so please let us know in the live chat or message us on Discord. And if you are interested in calling in and being on the show tonight, we are opening the line for that. If you want to do that, just go into the podcast waiting room on our Discord server and send us a message in the podcast waiting room chat room there, and we'll queue you up to talk about that, to come on the show and give us your opinions about the merger. I did a poll earlier and stupidly closed the tab that it was on, so I'm a genius. I'll pull that up. But anyway, I had given 5 options. One was like, it was basically, I asked you all out there what you thought of this Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft, because it's been official. Now, we've been talking about this for a while. A few months ago this was announced, but all of the authorities who have to approve these kinds of things have given their approval, and so it's actually official now. And Bethesda actually made an official announcement with a pretty epic trailer. It was kind of bizarre. It was kind of bizarre. They put a lot of time into this and a lot of money into this announcement trailer for the fact that they are now part of Microsoft, and it's called "Here's to the Journey." So it was kind of an interesting watch, and it's all inspirational, and here's how far we've come, and here's this is our dedication and our passion and all of that. Anyway, it's. You know what? I mean, watch it if you're interested, but it's really, there's nothing there. Except apparently on a Thursday of this week, Microsoft and Bethesda are going to be doing some kind of a press conference to let us know what their future plans are. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And on that note, I should let Sybe and Moontag say hello. I've kind of been just on a roll here. So anyway, how are you folks tonight?
Hi, decent. I've been making progress with doggy training. They've been behaving better.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, kitties have been getting along fairly well with them too. There hasn't been any scraps, and yes, it has been good.
All right, so you've been busy with that, and
yes. I have unfortunately had more problems again. Health things, so it was a little bit of a rough day. It's been a last rough 2 days. and it's going to be another rough week. But Friday, I should be getting the treatment that I need. So yay for that!
Yeah.
Yeah. So joy.
All right, that's good. So, yeah. So your thoughts on this Bethesda being acquired by Microsoft? I need a shorter way of saying that, and it becoming official. What are your thoughts on that, Simon Moon? While I go and look up the poll that I did earlier on our YouTube channel. Did we lose Saib?
What?
Your
No,
thoughts?
Sorry.
Your thoughts on the Bethesda acquisition?
So this is, like I said the first time. I really think this is a good thing. I like the direction that they're going. I like the things that are happening. Now let's be real here. This will kill the studio, 100% will, but I believe that it'll kill the studio in decades, not what was starting to look like, another mess around the corner.
Wait, this will kill which studio?
Well, Bethesda. I mean, every no studio lasts forever. That's my point. Is no studio lasts forever, and is this going to mean that, what does this mean for Bethesda? And right now, what I'm saying is that I think this is good for Bethesda. This is good for them now. This is good for them for the next several years, and we're probably going to see a significant boost in their quality over the next probably a decade or more with gaming. Eventually, Microsoft Studios will mess up. Probably, I would imagine, sometime over the next 2 decades, and then they'll start to go downhill again. That's just how these gaming companies have been going, and every time, every time they realize that they made a mistake, they have to go back and fix themselves. And sometimes they survive that, and sometimes they don't. So that's a very convoluted way of saying that. I think that this is a good thing that will, in future years, probably come back to bite them. But by that time, I suspect most people who are at the founding members and the core team there at some of these studios, I think most of those people will have moved on at that point. I think that it's a natural evolution. I'm not saying it very well, and part of that has to do with the amount of painkillers that I'm on right now. But just generally, I think this is a good thing, and yes, this will at some point mean their demise, because anytime you have a mega corporation take a smaller thing over, eventually that thing will degrade, right? And everything, we see that happen all around us. But is it a question of will it degrade after decades of getting good use and being prosperous, or will it be something, or will it happen sooner rather than later? And where I think Bethesda was at, just a few years ago when they launched Fallout 76, I think they were in a really bad position. And I think that the leadership at ZeniMax was killing not just Bethesda, but all of the sister studios. I think they were demanding ridiculous, stupid things from them. They were wanting to jump on bandwagons of different games. They were wanting to control what we, the players, were getting. They wanted to focus their online live services on microtransactions that had gameplay effects. Something that was promised to us, that wasn't going to happen. Like Pete Hines promised and said, and so did Todd Howard, said that it was going to be cosmetic only. And then what happened? ZeniMax came in and said, "We want you to start charging for this, and make sure you're making these scrubs pay a mighty pretty penny for these super powerful things that we're going to add to the video game." And it's very mafioso, basically, is what I'm getting to with that.
Yeah.
Impression.
Your personifications of
yes.
companies with voices they're just getting more entertaining by the day.
So,
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I really think that this is how it was turning out. I think that if ZeniMax had stayed in control, and the absolute disgraceful, bungling buffoons that were running that company had their way, we would see Bethesda crash and burn, just like BioWare, just like Blizzard, just like all of these other companies that have been bought out, controlled by a bigger company that they have no interest in making good content. We've talked to, a great extent about what art is and what does art mean and how is art made, right? Like what is the process of that? And in that process, you have to understand that you don't always have a hit with content. An artist can make a dozen songs on an album and only 2 of them will ever become noteworthy. Maybe one of them, only hits like the top 100 charts, and then maybe or maybe not, the album doesn't go platinum. Maybe their second or third album is complete garbage, but their fifth or sixth one is absolute gold. These are the things that happen when you create art. Is BioWare, Bethesda, Blizzard, all these big companies, are they always going to make hits? Absolutely not. And they're not going to make hits normally every time they make a game. Some of them are going to be better than other ones when left to their own devices. But when you add in corporate control into that, you're just guaranteeing that you're going to get less effective with your games. And I say that now, which is kind of an oddity because we're talking about Microsoft, one of the biggest companies on the planet, who bought out this studio and now has way more control over them, from a legal and financial perspective than ZeniMax had over them. So, in that perspective, yes, that's a very dangerous thing. And it's something that is cause for concern, and people should be very worried about where this is going in the future. And we should, keep a keen eye on Microsoft to make sure that we let them know every time they start making a mistake. But I think that between the two, Microsoft as it is today and ZeniMax as it was, just a few months ago, I would pick, Microsoft almost all the time in that lineup, because ZeniMax, as they were just careening off a cliff with their choices. And at least here, what we've been told and what has been communicated is that the people who were against 76 coming out when it was, who were frustrated, annoyed, very close to quitting the company that they had built with their, with their blood, sweat, and tears, and their friends were so close to quitting because of all of the horrendous and atrocious things that were being shoveled into that game, and who were genuinely very angry about this. But they couldn't do anything about it because the only thing that they could do about it was to quit and to walk away from all of that stuff, and then most likely, because they've done it before, be blacklisted in the entire games industry, and have all of the bad things that happened be pointed directly at them and say, yeah, that was the guy who was in charge. That was the guy who made all those decisions. And as they walk out the door, everybody remembers them in hatred. Or to buckle down, sit down, endure the stuff, and then wait for a chance and an opportunity to say, no, this is what we wanted to make all the time. This is what we're doing. And right now, I would say right now, Todd Howard is having the last laugh against the people who told him, you will release Fallout 76 and you will get up on stage and say that this is great and that it's working fine and it's working perfectly. And I think he is having his last laugh right now, and not the last laugh in the whole 76 debacle, but I think one of the last laughs. I believe fairly honestly that there is another last laugh coming with 76, and I think it will be it'll be a much better thing, because I think it'll be a little bit more of the community involvement in that aspect. So yeah, that's probably a few years out though. So I would say that I would say that, again, 76 was a debacle. It was a horrendous thing. The concept behind it, after they've done the improvements that they've done to it, after they implement more of the improvements that they wish to implement, I believe that at some point, probably a year or two from now, I'll say that 76 will probably be a good game. And I can say that after looking at what happened with No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky has gone from a thing that I would have given up on. I would have burned down the studio at the point of its release. But I gotta hand it to them. They said we're going to make this right, and they stopped lying publicly to people. They just said, "Let us work on it, and we're sorry." Didn't give people their money back, but whatever. I myself still didn't get a refund after I demanded it for playing 8 hours of that garbage. But I got to say that the game right now has a phenomenal community behind it, and the core game is phenomenally good for what it is and for what people wanted it to be, and it's exactly what a lot of people wanted it to be, and it's now above and beyond what they originally showed in that trailer all those years ago when they promised us a pack of lies, basically. And I will say that 76 will probably get to that point somewhere in the future too, because they've made it clear that they are not abandoning this project. And we can look at, if you want to look at what Microsoft's stance on this is, you look at Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is another excellent example of a game that came out, wasn't as bad on release as 76 was, but it had a lot of issues. It had not nearly enough content, and it had a lot of broken things about it. And what's happened since then? Microsoft has continued to pour money into it, and they're now making a good profit on it because the game is good. It's largely good. And I think
we've quite a few in our own community playing it, and there were people playing it back before it was improved. I mean, it wasn't the worst game ever, even back when it first came out. It wasn't
the worst game ever. It was just
we enjoyed playing it together. We played with some of our community members, etc. But it just there just wasn't a lot to do in it, so by all reports, it's doing much, much better. So you think they'll take that same kind of approach with Fallout 76, and that's a good thing if they do that, for sure. I mean, if they can pull something out of that broken mess, I mean, I wouldn't mind another good Fallout game, for sure.
Well, I've been suggesting for a while. I've been saying let's get into it after their next big expansion release, which is going to be coming down the pipeline here in a little bit, and we will see where exactly things have been lined up, where exactly we're at with the whole thing. And I think and I hope that what we'll see is something decently good. Definitely an improvement on where they were before. Again, I will stipulate this. I stipulate this every time I talk about 76. Right now, I still don't advise that you buy the game unless you are a massive Fallout fan and you really have nothing else to do. If that is you, then I say sure, buy it. Anybody else, even people who like the genre, I still caution you to be very careful. Don't buy the game because there's still a lot of problems with it. There's still a lot of issues. And if you're very angry with Bethesda and very upset about what they've done to you, by all those false promises, if you were the recipient of any of those bad events that happened in the last year, of course, don't buy it. Still keep your distance from it. And I 100% respect your anger at the studio, but I'm asking you to be aware that a lot of those bad decisions were the product of ZeniMax doing and saying things that we know for a very long time. They have a long history of doing this. The Elder Scrolls MMO was run exclusively by them, and they did that release was one of the most horrendous releases ever. Like, just go back and look at Angry Joe's playthrough of it. I believe a lot of his videos are still up covering that. You will see a travesty of a video game. Think of what you want of Angry Joe right now, but back then that was kind of like that. He was at the peak of his game when he was doing that, and there wasn't any of this political BS milling about causing all these extra issues. And back then, everybody who played it was horrified at how bad that game was. And ZeniMax suddenly stepped back from it and said, that wasn't our fault. Somebody else is now responsible for this. Here, Joe. Here's this hot potato. Take care of it. I'm off and running. We're gonna work on a new project called Fallout 76. It's gonna be a great day. You know, and again, I remind you, this is that company. These are these people, these moronic, useless, pathetic excuses for leadership at that company. Horrendous people that were largely useless in what they did. They have a huge cut of money now, and some of these people walked away with a lot of money. Many millions and millions and millions of dollars. A lot of those people did. They can take that money and please kindly stay away from the games industry going forward. For the love of God, if you are a developer, stay clear of any of those people that had anything to do with ZeniMax. If anybody shows up at your door saying, "Hi, I'd like to invest in your company. I've had a lot of experience in the past. See my resume here? I was one of the chief executives at this company called ZeniMax. As soon as you hear that, you turn around and you run. Yeah, just turn around and run. That's probably the best thing you can do. Stay away from these people. They are not good at what they do, unless burning down studios and causing intense pain. I mean, you look up any of the deep bios into ZeniMax. You look at how the company was made. You look at the shady things that they've done. The fact that the guy who founded the company was then kicked out by his business partner and financial expert, who then was responsible for basically all of the terrible decisions that ever happened. They got through that by sheer luck, by making that company a success, and the hard-working people behind actual studios that they funded that were good at their job, and when they weren't muddling with stupid choices, you know, they were actually doing a good job on things. Does this mean that Bethesda has learned from all their lessons? We have yet to see, which is why I encourage you again, please don't pre-order. Please don't pre-order any of their games.
It's a good rule of thumb anyway, just to not pre-order. Yeah. But yes, I mean, you're right that the old is gone now, but Microsoft is in a bit of a position where it has to prove itself now. And here's the news story about that I was mentioning earlier. Microsoft will reportedly reveal its plans for Bethesda this week, so we will be keeping a very close eye on that. Apparently on Thursday, yes. We don't know what time, but there's going to be some sort of video presentation that
we are hopefully going to cover that live. I have some news that I'm going to drop now because it's not. This is unconfirmed. This is rumors, speculation. And good old Sibes clairvoyance kicking in here. So, a little bit of news on future projects. Everybody should be asking themselves, what does this mean for the future? What kind of games are we going to get? What's the stuff going on? Are they going to start working on another Fallout game right away? This is a really good question. This is a question that I am very excited to know about. And I am super, super excited to see if we're going to get another Fallout game. I am so excited for another Fallout game. Do you know that on their current pace, we're not expected to get a new Fallout game until close to 2030?
Well, yes.
Their current pace.
Bethesda Game Studios, they have to put out Starfield, and then there's going to be Elder Scrolls 6, which is years away still. So, yes.
We're
and then several years past that, we might get another Fallout, which is insane.
Even if so at the current rate, as of their current rate under ZeniMax like a week ago, at the current rate, we were not expecting another game from them in the Fallout universe until the soonest was going to be like 2025, 2027. And the latest, quite possibly, would be 2030. Horrendous, nightmarish. However, let's put a pin on that. So, the rumor is going, and what I believe we will be announced. Again, this is heavy speculation on my part. Little bit of rumor that I've heard people talking about. Again, rumor, Nothing concrete, just talking with some devs and talking with some friends and people mentioning, oh, well, there's some interesting things going on. So, what are these interesting things that are going on? Well, as you may or may not know, the people who largely worked on the original Fallout 1 and 2, most of those people who worked on Fallout 2, if you were to take the sampling of the people who worked on Fallout 2, and if you were to find where they all are in the biggest clump of people, as in like the biggest like group of people. So if there was 40 people that worked on the original game, I'm pulling numbers out of my head, and 5 of them are working together today, and nobody else is, then those 5 people are the the team that is still quote unquote the original team, right? So if you use that logic, now it's more than 5. In fact, it's a lot more than 5. There is still a large majority of people that have worked on Fallout 2 and on Fallout New Vegas. Those people are also owned by Microsoft. And those people were about to start production about a year ago. Was announced that they were going to start production on a new game that was essentially a competitor to Elder Scrolls. Now, let's use a little bit of logic to lay this out for you guys. If you are Microsoft and you just paid a lot of money to get both Bethesda and Obsidian, and you get them into a room and you guys are like, hey, we own you both now, what are you guys working on? And Obsidian says, hey, we're working on a competitor to Elder Scrolls. It's brand new, nobody knows anything about it, it's a great idea, we have lots of great ideas about it. You'll hear that and you'll go, well, why would we want to put money behind that when really we don't want to have you guys release a game that directly competes with the next Elder Scrolls? Elder Scrolls is Elder Scrolls, and it's going to carry itself. And as long as it's good, then that's great. So here's my pitch to you, says one of the heads over at Microsoft, as he turns to Obsidian, says, what is your guys' dream project that you all want to work on? That you all, as much as unanimously as you can, agree on that you want to work on. What would that project be? All of the people at Obsidian raised their hands and said, if we could work on any project that we wanted to work on, we would love to work on a second part to New Vegas. Well, says Microsoft, just so happens that we own this IP right now, but let's be fair to Bethesda. Bethesda, what are you guys working on right now? We're working on this thing called Starfield. And what are you working on after that? Oh, after that, we'll be working on Elder Scrolls. I see. And what are you going to be working on after that? Well, by that time, we'll probably want to get back to the Fallout thing. All right. And you have an idea for a Fallout that's based on the West Coast? No. This will be East Coast still. We're going to move to a different place, quite possibly New York. Quite possibly. Wink, wink. Oh, okay. All right. Well, would you have now that we own you guys? Is there anybody here who would say no to Obsidian working on New Vegas?
Now,
New Vegas.
Okay, so this is a very interesting little scene you've painted for us, but this is speculation on your part, is it not?
Oh, yeah. I'm winking heavily right now, saying that this is speculation. And again, I do mean this. This is still fairly speculation on my part.
So you just think it's very likely that they could, but
I can tell you this, that one of the most excited groups of people, upon hearing that Microsoft was going to buy out Bethesda, one of the most excited group of people was a very core group sitting over at Obsidian.
Interesting. So what about Avowed though? I mean, it has sort of been pitched as a like, I don't know that Obsidian pitched it like that, but it's, people have looked at it and looked at what they've announced, and Avowed does look like it was going to try to take a bite out of that same market as appeals to the Elder Scrolls fans. So what now? Like, they're not tossing Avowed aside, right?
They
They're-
may or may not be. I would say that again that probably follows. There's probably a lot of internal discussion and dialogue going on within regards to that. There's also their boss there at Obsidian, who a lot of people are a little unhappy with. Again, I concur that he's made some mistakes. He's definitely had some errors. He's made some errors in the past. I would say that he was between a rock and a hard place when he was making those decisions, and that I don't think any of the decisions that he could possibly have made would have made everybody happy. I think, again, I'm not a big fan of what he did. What he did with certain people and writers and whatnot was not good, and I really long for the day that I can, possibly forcibly take a bunch of people and put them in a room and give them tea and crumpets until they make up and people apologize and shake hands and get past this. I would love that, because as I've said before, when it comes to the disagreements between certain parties and Obsidian, it's your two best friends having an argument, right? Is essentially what that boils down to. And you don't want your two best friends having an argument, because there is nobody who wins in that scenario. Everybody loses, but you lose twice as much, because you can't side with anybody. You can't, and it's a really tough position to be in, and it's no fun. And again, I have love for everybody on all sides of Obsidian, and the people who left Obsidian, who left under being very, very upset and very, very angry. And I completely agree with their position, but I also agree in a lot of ways with the position of Obsidian. And I just wish that both of them could understand each other for a minute and see where they were coming at. And I know there's bad blood there. I just wish that you could settle down and actually sort it out. And then maybe apologies could be made and people could make up. That's what I want. But will we get that? I don't know.
I don't know. But will we get a New Vegas 2? It's obviously very possible. It's
at this point, it is more possible now than ever before.
For sure.
Because if you want to pump out a new game, and you want it to be a success, and you want it to have a good, strong IP, and you want to have something that hits that itch that people have been crying and begging for, Fallout 5, not what you want to do. Fallout New Vegas.
Now New Vegas.
That would turn heads. Now, of course, it's not going to be called that, but that project would turn heads. There are very few gamers that are fans of Fallout who would not immediately jump at that, and that would also be a break from Bethesda doing stuff. Could offer a clean break from that, wash that taste of 76 out of your mouth, and give you something new to say, here you go. Try this. As a return to Fallout at its peak greatness, try this. It would be perfect. Is it what's going to happen? I don't know. I can't promise you one way or the other, but I can say that there were a lot of people who were very excited at the prospect of Bethesda joining the Microsoft team. And there was a lot of those people that were very excited that worked at a certain studio who have been dreaming for years about working on their first love, which was the first game that many of these people made, which was the Fallout West Coast universe. And if these people have the ability to make any game that they want with the backing of Microsoft and the untold millions of dollars that they could feed into that company to make whatever they wanted in the greatest, grandest scale that they could possibly make it, there is only one game that sits on the top of my mind and the top of their mind, and that would be the new. Well, I think it would be called New, probably some take on New California, and that would be, that would be amazing. And again, the timing for it couldn't be more perfect. If they could get this out in the next 4 years, again, could not possibly be more perfect.
Right.
This would be such a perfect time to hammer it out. Now, the other option is that they move over the creation of the next Fallout game into one of the other Bethesda studios, so one of the sister studios. So not Bethesda, Maryland, different one of the different studios. So take your pick out of the half dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and that is quite possible. I wouldn't discount it right now. That's kind of likely. But if they are going to plan on doing that, I suspect we'll hear something probably by Thursday. They've had almost a year to prepare this announcement. So the studios are going to be lining up and they're going to be reporting on what they're working on. We are going to see stuff that are being planned out. I suspect we are going to see a Starfield trailer, possibly even a release date. If things are progressing as I think they are, I suspect that we will get a release date, maybe even for this summer. So,
wow. All right.
Big news.
That's I was going to ask you, what do you think that Bethesda, like, what do you think Microsoft Bethesda are going to show us on Thursday? Are they just going to talk about how some of their games are going to be Xbox exclusives, which we know they are? That's been confirmed. There's not all necessarily, but definitely some future Bethesda games will be Xbox and PC exclusives. So basically, what are you excluding? We're talking about console exclusives. They'll come to Xbox and PC, but not to Nintendo, not to PlayStation until a while later. But I mean, that's some games, and we might find out a little more with a little more detail on Thursday. All right, I just want to say thank you. We're going to get to some chat comments and some callers right away here, or at least one caller we have in the queue. Kisuke, we'll get Kisuke on. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being so active in the live chat. We love seeing you so active. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join the Discord community. You know, if you're new to the podcast, by the way, if you're coming over here from our main channel, definitely subscribe over here so you catch all our live content. And all of our live content will be on this channel for the foreseeable future. So, you'll catch the podcast. And if we ever do any live streaming of, covering events and things like that, you'll find that here on this channel. So definitely subscribe here and subscribe to our other channels too. Triple S Radio. Good music over there. Also, just wanted to say, if you haven't already, please slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. And if you're listening on Twitch, we welcome you as well. And do say hello in the live chat over there. I do see we have somebody watching there, so let us know that you're out there. All right. A couple of things I wanted to read. So Zoe Moonlight says, Wayward Realms, Avowed, Isles of Adelar, and Fable 4. The Elder Scrolls 6 does have some pretty good competition. I would agree. I mean, Isles of Adelar has a long way to go. Isles of Adelar, it's a great start, and I love the design of the game. Played the it's in alpha right now. I played the alpha a little while ago. It's got a long way to go, and there's what is it, 2 people working on it. I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like, I admire what you're doing, and I hope you pull it off. I sincerely do. But there's a long way to go with that one. But I mean, it might be so I'm definitely behind them there. Avowed does look pretty good. I mean, we don't know much about it yet, but it's Obsidian. And Wayward Realms. But then Zoe goes on to say, although Obsidian's Outer Worlds was terrible and no one could convince me otherwise. Well, I won't try to convince you otherwise. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was quite good. I mean, it was it was not top notch. I mean, it was not, it had its limitations, but I thoroughly enjoyed playing it. I wish I'd had more time to get through more of it. But Zoe actually likes it, thinks it's worse than Fallout 76. Well, I mean, you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. I cannot agree with you on that one, but we definitely appreciate your thoughts. All right. Trakiran says, I would love to play a New Vegas. This would be the best thing to hear. IMHO. I think a lot of people would be super stoked for a New Vegas.
Yeah. I agree.
Circadian says, Bethesda has better retention than most studios. From what I hear, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Mhm.
Oh yes, this came from
Yeah.
the poll I did. I wanted to give you the results of that. So I asked, how do you feel about Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda? And these were the options. The top one was, this is a great thing and Bethesda's games will be better for it. 22% said that. And then the next one was, I think this will be good, but I'm not 100% sure. 37% of you picked that choice. That's what I would pick as well. That was definitely the most popular choice, was thinking this is good but cautiously optimistic, like Circadian said. 25% of you said they don't care, and then 12% said I'm nervous but somewhat hopeful, and 5% said this is a terrible thing that will be bad for gaming. So well over 50% of the responses were positive, and most of those were like cautiously optimistic, but then almost a quarter of you out there said this is great and it'll just be nothing but good for Bethesda's games. I mean, I'm also cautiously optimistic. I think this will be a good thing, but we do have to remember that Microsoft is a megacorp, and those always make me nervous. We have a comment on the poll that was from Spaz Muffin, who says, I'm worried about it. I have a general dislike for exclusives anyway, as I don't think they're fair. But this isn't the comment I thought I was reading. But Spaz Muffin says, I have concerns mainly about how divided the gaming community is, and I can see the potential for this to fracture the divide further, given how popular Bethesda Game Studios games are. I mean, that's true. That is a concern. And if you have the newest, greatest Elder Scrolls game coming, and releasing on Xbox but not PlayStation, I could definitely see that leaving a foul taste in some people's mouths. Mm-hmm. And
I think this is one of these things that I get people don't like quote unquote the exclusives, but it's going to be on PC and on one of the consoles. And then there's it seems to be quite the guarantee that most of these games will also then show up on the Nintendo and on the PlayStation, 6 months, a year, or whatever down the road after that. That's more than what PlayStation has promised to do. That is
true.
Like a million times more than what Nintendo has ever done, period. Like, Nintendo doesn't release any of their games onto any other platform, despite the fact that it could literally make them $1 billion tomorrow.
Yeah, you have a point there. You do have a point.
So, I understand some people's consternation on this. I agree. It's what we've been saying for a very long time. I had such a hankering to play some Mario the other day. Just wanted to play some general side-scrolling Mario goodness. One of the older games. I just suddenly had an urge to do it. You know what I could do? Nothing, because there's no way to do that legally.
I was gonna say there's ways. There's ways. Not that we recommend them, but there's ways.
But it's just sad.
It is. Yeah. For sure.
That they have so many of these old titles that they just refuse to expand. I mean, think about it like this. Not only could they sell the games, they could package the games up into a unique controller that they make that plugs into USB for like the old-fashioned controllers, right? Like just like tweak them a little bit for modern day hands, sell that, and then you're selling a $30 controller with a $20 pack of a handful of games. Again, $1 billion tomorrow.
So like the games are actually on the controller and you just plug it into your PC and you go. That'd be an awesome idea.
That and again, they've done this for the for these micro consoles, right? They did the micro consoles.
Yeah, I used to have a dance mat that I would plug into my TV and just start it up, and it already had songs in it.
But they won't even do that. They won't even, like, when they did the micro consoles, it was great. One of my nephews got it for Christmas or something like that, so he can play bunch of these old games on this console that's literally it's literally the size of like a cupcake. It's hilarious, but it's got all these old games on it, and it's like, again, they limited that supply so much that only a handful of people that I know were managed to be able to pick one up. And then they refuse to make more of them. It's like, again, it's like billions of dollars that they're just leaving on the table. Is it part of their, like, Disney does the same thing too, right? They put the stuff in the vault, so to speak, and they never release it again.
Maybe it's that weird inverse sense of like value, where it's like the more rare it is, the more special it is. The more there is out there, the less special it is, or something like that. But I'm just like, your math is not logical.
Yeah, and it's a waste of. I mean, it's a waste of community, like, connection and
Right?
growing your audience and stuff like that.
Like, this is such a great way to build rapport with the people who are literally supporting their industry, right?
Exactly.
Like, without the fans, there's no company, there's no industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
Again, I have no idea why they don't want to do this. It doesn't make any sense. It seems arrogant and stupid on its face, and ludicrously dumb everywhere else. So for now, I just nod my head and I'm like, yeah, well, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they do what they want to do, and I guess that's all we can do.
Yeah. Well, as an artist, like, you create a lot of drafts. You get a lot of ideas, but not every idea you have is a good one. And what one could best hope for is to at least learn from all these different attempts, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We've got a couple of people waiting in the call-in room, so let's get Kisuke over here if you wouldn't mind doing that. Lady Reaver, and I see Willie Ram has joined as well. We've got Persized Gaming as well. Just a note to everybody, please be tasteful and please keep swearing to a minimum, just for the sake of the YouTube algorithms listen to everything. So yeah.
Welcome to the show, Kisuke.
Hey, Kisuke, how's it going?
I'll try to not be as rude as I normally am.
But you can be rude. There's no rudeness filter, I don't think.
Yeah,
not yet, anyway.
You know what I mean by rude.
So what are your thoughts on this Bethesda situation?
Well, anything when we're talking megacorps, I always it feels like I'm walking on glass, right?
Right.
But it does seem to be the lesser of the evils currently in that sphere of companies. Microsoft speaking. And so I'm happy that it's a change away from ZeniMax, because it seriously was going in a bad direction.
Okay, so you're hopeful for the situation?
I am hopeful for the situation. I would say I'm like not a 10 but an 8 on hopefulness.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'd put myself at kind of a 6.5 to 7. I mean, Microsoft, they have been doing better lately. Like a few years, with the Xbox a few years ago, of course, was a disaster. But more recently, they've been doing better, and they seem to be running well. Now you've got the overarching Microsoft mega corporation, which is, of course, I mean, they're doing some weird, shady things, and they're just a mega corporation, which is too damn big. But
it does also help that the bleep that was in charge of that whole Xbox thing is no longer at the company.
Right. Yeah, very true.
That's a big plus.
Under new management. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Bethesda having Microsoft money behind them and Microsoft and current Xbox leadership behind them is probably good for Bethesda. Now, again, like Saib said, in 20 years, what's that going to mean? Is it going to be a disaster? I mean, in 20 years, I mean, if half the world hasn't been nuked by the great corporate wars as Google, attacks Apple and Microsoft allies with Amazon and then betrays them and stabs them in the back, and then anyway, we'll be living in real Fallout at that point. So maybe it won't even matter. We'll
have that discussion if we're somehow not living in Cyberpunk in 20 years.
It'll be one of the two. One of the two. Cyberpunk future or Fallout. Which one?
I don't know which I prefer, to be honest.
Well, in Cyberpunk, at least we'd have video games. But is
true.
It worth? Is it worth
being a corpo slave?
I
don't know, man. That's a hard bargain.
Yeah. All right, Kisuke. Any final thoughts?
Have a good day.
Okay.
I'll see you guys later.
That's the final thought. Is have a good day. Well, thanks, Kisuke. Good to have you on the show. He was nervous about coming on, so I'm glad he did. So, all right, Willie Ram. Willie Ram had posted earlier, but I will. I thought he wasn't going to show up, but anyway, I was going to read his comment out, but he's here to give us his thoughts on his own. So let's bring on that Liam Neeson charm. How's it going, Willie Ram? You're muted, by the way. You are muted on Discord, looks like. Okay.
I hope he didn't fall asleep. There you go.
There we go.
How's it going?
Hi.
Really well.
Welcome.
So, I'll just jump right into it. I mean, like I wrote, I'm very much conflicted on this because current Microsoft gaming division is okay, and historically, they've also been okay. We have what's it called? The Ages? No. We had the real-time strategy game, which was okay.
Yeah,
Age of Empires.
And it's actually considered a classic.
The Age of Empires series, yeah. You're going way back.
We have
now.
Halo. We have Halo, and we also have the first Mass Effect. They were all under the auspices of Microsoft Gaming, and they were all just fine.
The first Mass Effect was?
Yeah, it was under Microsoft back then.
I did not know that. Okay, interesting.
On the other hand, we have the massive Windows. What is it? Windows Live for gaming.
Yeah.
Their first attempt at creating a closed garden,
which failed fairly substantially, I would say, but did open the door to to some improvements, right? To some improvements.
Now, my guess, it's not actually a guess. It's like what they're trying to do is they're trying to reach the same goal, but they're trying to do it with a carrot instead of with a stick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the Game Pass comes from, and that's where the whole they're basically trying to make a nice sweet pot that everyone will want to come into and not climb out of.
Mm-hmm.
In the short term, and I mean short term as in the next 6 years, I think it'll be a net positive. We'll get good games, solid support. They'll be on PC and they'll be on the Xbone. The question is, once a whole lot of people get into the honeypot, what'll happen then? And after 6 years, with the way corporations now are ramping up their evaluation terms, will the management change and will the same, relatively, I wouldn't say benign, but sane people that are currently at the top, will they still be at the top?
Right.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, because that's the thing, right? You've talked about, even just here, how Microsoft had, some high points back in the day, and then, some ups and downs through the years. I mean, even a single company can go good and go bad, and fall into favor, fall out of favor with the changes of management. So it's, yeah, exactly. Even if it could be fantastic for 5 years and then go down the toilet like that. So,
So I mean, it's not exactly, high hopes, but we can at least hope for some good games for the next like half a decade.
Yeah.
Coming out of this partnership. What'll happen next? It really depends on what lesson like the CEOs learn from their success.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping they get rid of the stupid monetization garbage that we were starting to see with a lot of with not just the Bethesda Game Studios games, but things from their sister studios. For those of you who remember my review on Rage 2, I was like, this is ridiculous that they've got no content in this game. Like the story was very short. They had fantastic combat mechanics. Like, it was super fun to do the actual combat part of the game. But the story was very short, and they were releasing story DLC 3 months after the game came out. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I told, for that reason alone, even though it had super fun mechanics and the gameplay was really good, I told people don't buy this until it, if it releases like a complete edition in a few years, or like a year or whatever, then sure, maybe when it actually has a story of some length. But then in Doom Eternal as well, and then some other games, you started seeing these things creep in, and it was garbage. So hopefully they dispose of all that. So.
And it's a thing, but I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of people are fixated on Western AAA.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, the moment you change your focus onto AA or to Japanese companies, a lot of these problems, they're not as acute.
Well, we've got, it's the world of like single and AA that really are pushing games. I mean, even indie, like some of the biggest games of the last 12 months have been small indie games that focused on a generalized concept, did it well, and then improved upon it, and then managed to get maybe a little bit of luck, maybe a little bit of whatever, and boom, they're the number one thing now. Like Among Us is still one of the most amazing things I've seen in gaming.
I mean, the games that really come to mind on this would be Among Us, Valheim, and Hades.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hades, games from some smaller studios.
And I can guarantee you this. So a little bit of an older news blip. In a few weeks, the beta for Subverse is going to be coming out. And this is going to be another thing where, again, I'm not promising, I think that if they manage to have good gameplay in that game, suddenly you will see this mass movement towards this, and this will shake the feet of, or shake the boots of all the contrarian, controlling, hypocritical, hyper wanting to control what you find as entertainment, will make all those people quake in their boots, and they realize that they can't control anybody. Like, their control is a figment of their imagination. And again, I've been saying this for years. Subverse needs to come out, and a game like Subverse needs to do well to show these people that your idea of what you can control other people doing is a preposterous, stupid notion. Mm-hmm. And that's why
the problem is mostly that these sort of pearl clutchers, for some reason, they have the ear and influence of basically middle to higher management. For some reason, they always manage to get those people to agree with them.
Yes, because
right.
those people look at Twitter and think that Twitter represents the opinions of the entire world, which is nonsense. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of echo chambering going on in the big tech bubble. Which is part of why they're just so out of touch in general with what gamers actually want, and why they went after
deflate anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they went so hard after CD Projekt Red, where it's really unfortunate that Cyberpunk 2077 really fell on its butt for other reasons. Because if that game had been a runaway success, that would have rocked some of those foundations that Cy was talking about there. But
yeah, well, I mean, the feeding frenzy around Cyberpunk was a sight to behold.
it really was. But I think there was something there that gamers were really hungering for, and there's an appetite for that raw, that raw, brazen look at reality and uncensored gameplay and adult content, not necessarily for the sake of being titillated, but for the sake of it just freedom and taking a hard look at. I mean, again, like I said, the game fell on its face for certain reasons that we've discussed in depth. But it had a lot to offer in terms of taking a hard look at the world. And like even now we're talking about our current world in terms of cyberpunk and mega corporations like Microsoft. And so
the thing is, I mean, from a perspective of world design, and even from the simple moment-to-moment gameplay, Cyberpunk is rock solid. That's not the issue. I mean, no, this isn't about Cyberpunk. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's a morass.
So
let's not slide down that path again.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts here?
I mean, just common sense reminder: no corporation is your friend. None of them actually value, love, or really appreciate the IPs that we love. Wow. So always, add a grain of gamer salt to anything that corporations do with games.
For sure. I think a lot. I mean, again, this is a hard lesson that we've learned in a few times over the past few years, and I feel like things are changing in terms of perspectives. And I mean, you're right. The corporations are in it to make money. That's why they exist. There's no other reason why a corporation exists except to make money. I don't think charities incorporate. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, and so you can have an amicable partnership with a company. They offer you a good product for a fair price, and you appreciate that, and they in turn respect you. There can be a good working relationship there, but you're right. We should never give our allegiance to a company or a corporation. But thank you so much for the thoughts, Wooly Ram. Couple of short things, and then we there might be a bigger topic we'll get into if Saib is feeling up to discussing it, and if we actually still have time, because it kind of relates to the Microsoft story.
Yeah. This is a good example. So a lot of people were asking, like, what's the thought and what's the perspective on just the general, like, what are your guys' thoughts on Microsoft, being a giant gaming corporation now, taking so many big titles, and then compare that to what Amazon and Google tried to do. So Google spent billions of dollars on a gaming wing of their company that has, for all intents and purposes, come to a crashing break. Like just has come to an absolutely crashing halt. And you compare that to something like the how Amazon's been handling that. We look at Amazon, and they have spent equally billions of dollars on these game development, and they only really have like one or two titles that are remotely close to gaining some ground. They've been floundering for a bit now, and I don't suspect that they're gonna be able to really make it going forward. So what is the perspective? Like, what is the thing that we're going to do with that? That's the big question, right? So yeah, that's a worrisome thing to look at. Are we going to see a failure of big company business with Microsoft that takes down all of these favorite wonderful studios, Obsidian, Bethesda, all of their sister studios, the dozens and dozens of games that we love, Dishonored, Dishonored, Doom, Wolfenstein, all these games that we love. Are we going to see a collapse of that? And I would say that comparing these two things together, I would say no, because Google was never really like Microsoft always had its foot in the gaming industry. Google did not. Amazon, it's Amazon. They deliver packages. They never had their foot in the gaming industry before. So when you don't have people that understand the art of gaming, the art of creating this content, if you don't have somebody there who appreciates that, who loves that, who's fostering that growth, it's basically like asking somebody who has zero respect for name your art, Renaissance art, new new what do they call the new impressionists, but yeah, like just like pick your art style. It's like somebody who doesn't appreciate classical music and you're saying, hey, yeah, now you're in charge of the classical music department at our at our music hall, right? It's like, if you don't respect it, if you outright hate it, or if you find it stupid, what's your perception going to be on art? How are you going to be able to detect and feel it? Well, you're going to be about as good as Mr. Our last guest there with musical choice. You're going to pick something that is absolutely stupid and pointless and just horrible, and that's going to basically make you crash and burn. And that's what happened with Google, and that's what's happening to some extent with what we're seeing with Amazon, because Amazon is the only one who's holding on to this notion right now, whereas Google had, they crashed and burned hard, and it's only going to get worse for them because they hired so many people and they put so many resources into this, and now it's all crumbling under their feet, and they don't even have the wherewithal to even recover it. Like so many other programs that Google's adopted in the past, as soon as they don't see it being the next big thing, they just walk away from it. Google Glass was one of the greatest concepts of like innovation in the VR department that they'd had for a really, really long time. And as soon as they realized that it wasn't going to the level that they thought it was going to, they just abandoned the entire thing. Just walked away from basically all of the progress that they had made with it. And it fell on its face, even though they hadn't even passed the second generation of that technology. So yeah, not good at all. So yeah. Basically, that's really what we're seeing right now.
That said, now Microsoft has had decades of experience doing game development, though. So, when you had Google and Amazon trying to dive headfirst into this industry and really not knowing what they were doing, like compared with Microsoft, who has been putting out games for a long time. Do we have that kind of a concern for Microsoft? Really? It was not only were Google and Amazon. Amazon is just sort of into game development, but Google's grand plan for Stadia was just flawed from the get-go, and it really they spent massive amounts of money on ports. I have a tweet here from Jason Schreier explaining that Google spent tens of millions of dollars per game port to Stadia. So taking a game that already exists and porting it to Stadia, they were spending tens of millions of dollars on each of these. You can develop an entire game for that amount of money.
Yeah.
So
and again, the stupidity of whoever was in charge of that, just saying, just grab it all, like all of it, and they were just grabbing things left, right, and center. And they were paying enormous amounts of money for it. I don't know if we know how much they spent on getting Cyberpunk, like how much money they spent on that. But I would be curious to know, and I suspect quite strongly that it was probably 3 digits in the millions. So maybe like as much as 3 digits. So maybe they spent 100 million on that, which I mean that right there actually paid for all of the development, essentially paid for almost all of the development costs of the game, just right there. It's like just that one thing. And they just were throwing money at these things left, right, and center, and not actually fostering any like long-term growth. So of course they built a house of cards, which is really funny because if you look at the image of this guy doing this presentation, it really looks like it was a house of cards. Like they built a house of cards with these like these game things. When you look at it now, you're like, oh, they weren't saying that they were going to establish a network of game controllers and games and stuff like that. No, what they were showing is they were building a literal house of cards that would tumble like a house of cards does. So yeah, that's yeah.
All right, yeah. So that's that, I suppose. So yeah, we had a request to discuss that and just how they, what went wrong with.
Like there's more that we can like dig into on the what went wrong side, but I think all of it comes back to that answer of all of the big end mistakes being made by having somebody in charge of the show who basically had no idea what they were doing. And didn't know video games, didn't know gaming culture. And one of the big things you can tell with this is when a company that's making video games doesn't have a way to speak to their fans other than through straight up social media announcements via Twitter. When you have a studio who's making huge games, when you have that, and then you compare that directly with with these companies that have forums, that have the ways to integrate and communicate with their community, with their base, with their player base. When you don't have that, that's just a sign that shows immediately that corporation has no interest in what you, the consumer, is saying, because they don't want to engage with you on any level. That's what's happening there, basically. So yeah, again, kind of a. I mean, I'm trying to sum it up because we're a little short on time here, but that's basically kind of like more or less how I think it hits, and we'll hit on this in the future a little bit.
It's
more.
A deep topic. I had told the individual who requested it that it might be deeper than we could get into tonight, but figured we should touch on it. Yeah,
we'll get into this on the again on the Thursday show when we're covering the big live announcement from Bethesda and Microsoft.
Okay. All right. A few other things, some humorous stories and other smaller things from the week. So, okay, there was some kerfluffle about this. So, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, also known as CS:GO, just magically, mysteriously vanished from Steam. Apparently, this was a glitch. Some other games and DLCs and movies were also just vanished. Apparently this was just some sort of a glitch or a mistake on Steam's end, so the game is not gone. As if it's not restored already, it'll probably be very soon. So there's just some sort of a mistake was made, so nothing to worry about there. The game's not going away.
I imagine the forums when that disappeared probably were, honest to God, probably pretty hilarious.
Very possibly. Although, I mean, I imagine like it's not like, it doesn't sound like the game went down for people who already bought it. It was the store page disappeared. So I don't think there was any interruption to the service there. Germany has banned the selling of video games that contain loot boxes for minors. So it's now an adult only product, like alcohol is in most countries. I don't even know what the drinking age is in Germany, but here in North America, it's usually somewhere between 18 and 21. And now, to buy games that have loot boxes, you have to be of the age of maturity. Now, I don't know how well this is going to be able to be enforced. I suppose outfits like Steam will have to age verify, their users, but I mean, what's stopping a parent from buying it for their kid? Well, at least then you can point at the parent and be like, well, you're the one being dumb here, instead of just being ignorant. You know what I mean? You're actually, but again, how many? Is there enough parental education that a parent would look at that and be like, oh, it's got loot boxes. What does that mean? And the kid says, oh, it's just got some random stuff in it. And then, the parent isn't aware that this could run up tens of thousands of dollars on their credit card. I don't know. Will this change anything? I don't know. What do you think, Simon? Is this going to change anything? I mean, a lot of to market and try to get kids hooked on loot boxes obviously is a disgusting practice.
It's a despicable, disgusting practice that needs to end, and the sooner it ends, the better. And I congratulate Germany for once having the wherewithal to protect children. Thank you, Germany. Hopefully we see more of this. I hope to see many, 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 many beautiful lawsuits suing these companies that promote and encourage gambling addiction in children. When they know it, when they know that it's built off of this, every expert that speaks to these companies, that gets on that gets into their boardroom, that starts talking up a storm about, oh, hey, yeah, this, if you want to make money, this is how you do it. I literally draw that information back to that episode where of South Park where Stan starts playing some Canadian microtransaction game where he's building like stuff and through via microtransactions in Canada. It's a hilarious little bit. And the guy that comes in to talk to people about the how to make money, and and explains the process of how to manipulate people for money, turns out like the one of the people that explains it is Satan himself. It's like, oh yeah, this is how you do it, because this is how we know, this is how we make you fall. Yeah, and he explains it very very intelligently. And of course, like the turns out that the other person who's pushing the buttons on this whole thing is another is like another spawn from hell. And it's like, yeah, that's what's going on here. These people who get these people in to explain to them how this works. There was that one release tape, right, of how like somebody's talking about like preying on people's like desires, like preying on their insecurities, making sure that you make them feel like they gotta pay or else they'll get left behind. All their friends are doing it, so they have to do it too. And he's talking about the consumers like they're pigs, like they're nothing, and like they don't care. And that, like, congratulations, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with here. That's what's going on here. So yes, these people know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They've known exactly what they're doing forever. And yeah, it's something that is very worrisome.
Well, there's a reason why we have to have laws that say, you can't market cigarettes to kids, because there are disgusting people out there who will, if it'll make them $1 million, they'll murder a bunch of children, or do the moral equivalent by marketing them toxic products. So there's reasons, because there are disgusting people, and unfortunately some of these people are active in the gaming industry. So, and running these companies with these loot boxes and stuff. But I feel like, this is a good step. This is a good step. But at the same time, they haven't banned loot boxes outright. So, and I'm not saying they necessarily should. There's a discussion to be had there, but will it make a difference to these companies? I mean, how much of the whaling that happens really came from kids using their parents' credit cards? I have to imagine it was a small percentage. But it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. All right. So you can tell it's a small news week when gaming news sites are reporting on random things that people are doing in a video game, but this was kind of funny and requested that we talk about this as well. So apparently to get revenge on the Grey Dwarves in Valheim, some player went and cut down their entire forest. Okay, I mean, you do you, man. You do you.
Good use of time. Good use of time.
After being killed by the Grey... Did I say... they got a typo here. The number of typos I've been finding in news articles are it's unbelievable. But apparently after being killed by the Grey Swarves, he got revenge by going and cutting down the majority of the Black Forest. So, anyway, funny oddity from Valheim. I found the Vikings launching themselves into space. That was funny. That was funny.
That's pretty great.
And yeah, so anyway, it was a slow news week. So Zoe Moonlight asks, what are your thoughts on a $70 game plus microtransactions? I think it's disgusting. Okay, Moon has thoughts.
Just no. It's absolutely horrendous. Just no.
Selling a game, I mean, if you've got optional cosmetic microtransactions, I don't have a huge issue with that. But don't sell your game for $70. Like, don't sell it for full AAA price. Right? If your monetization plan is to get people to opt into cosmetic microtransactions, I don't think the game should cost any more than $20. Right?
It's like, pick one or the other. You can't have both.
And honestly, I say that because I like, if there's a stigma attached to free-to-play games now, fair or not, you can have free games that are quite excellent. And then, like it's possible for that formula to work, where you get a free game, and if you want to fund them by buying some optional stuff that's fair and preferably cosmetic and not predatory and not disgusting, like aimed at children, trying to get them to spend $10,000 on their parents' credit card, like we talked about in the previous story, then fine, that can work. But don't charge me a full AAA price for the game if that's your monetization plan. That's my thought. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I think like microtransactions don't have to be horrible. I mean, but it's just that they're usually used in a horrible way. But free to play kind of has the stigma. So I think, if you pay $10, $20 for a game and get some real value from it, and then on top of that, you can, like if you really love the game, you can put some extra money in and get some cool cosmetics. I'm fine with that personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said the cosmetics allow you to have more customization than typically what most companies can budget for that customization. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then I thought we'd end tonight just answering some questions from one of our YouTube members, or sorry, our Discord members. Gave us a bunch of questions. Old cartoons you may have liked. Oh well, when I was a kid, it was all about the Ninja Turtles, Inspector Gadget. What else? Those are the two I remember the most.
I used to have like a schedule, like after school, like elementary, like walking home, either by myself or with my siblings, and then like we'd put on a TV, and there would be like the Magic School Bus, Rupert Bear. I think there was Tintin at the same time. Heck, was there.
Yeah.
I even remember Little Lulu and that witch with the broom and a suitcase who says, "Have broom, will travel." I can't remember the name of the show for the life of me, but I can picture her face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. So, what cartoons did you watch?
I don't think it was. There was a severe limit of that we could watch growing up. So, yeah,
I was only allowed to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Fridays. I remember that.
You see, I was not even allowed to watch that.
My mother very reluctantly allowed me to, because all of my friends were into it. But,
yeah.
That's yeah. I know there were more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Anyway, on the gaming front, Mad Hatter asked, "What do you think of Bethesda finally having competition with Obsidian's Avowed?" Well, we talked about that earlier. So, Wayward Realms,
I think it's not competition. They're the same company now.
Yeah, exactly.
So whilst it's intercompany competition, and this is one of the things why I think that Avowed will be canceled or delayed in favor of building something that more people want. And if you make Avowed, at most you're going to sell like 2 to 5 million copies, like tops. Like especially on opening day. Opening day, you might not even break 1 million, because other than a few core fans, there's nobody who's really following that thing because it's new. Nobody really knows about it. Whereas you look at, again, a new West Coast Fallout game, that would literally shake the earth as far as gaming and gamers are concerned. We're looking at probably 10 to 15 million purchases day one. So that's especially with the backing of Microsoft. I really honestly think that's what we would be looking at, that if not closer to something higher. And again, if they manage to do it, they really manage to do all the things that they want to do, all the story, the content, everything. If they got a chance to do everything that they wanted to do with the full backing on a brand new, not a new engine, but like an engine that's it's a little bit more scaled up for this kind of stuff, or maybe with the new engine that Bethesda is working on, maybe having that come out. I mean, again, this is sky's the limit. And as far as that quick question, I should probably explain Bethesda's new engine, the one that they're working on, the new stuff. It's not new. It's the old engine, but it's had massive revamps to a ton of stuff in it. Completely new animation core. They've gotten rid of a lot of the older, from what I've heard, again, rumors, they've gotten rid of some of the older scripting issues that they were having issues with. They've learned ways to accelerate it and get it to do its job easier with less effort. Because again, it was a very old thing that was running into some problems. If they've improved all of that stuff, if they've improved their meshes, we know that they've improved their meshes and their textures, because they showcased that tech a while ago. All these big improvements, if they manage to improve all that stuff, we are really basically looking at a brand new engine. And if they can get all of that stuff running properly, that's not just a new engine for Bethesda Studios. That's a new engine that can be utilized by a lot of people in the company. And again, think about this. If that new engine, that new take on that new engine, is going to be something that more and more studios can adopt and use for their own games, and we know that it, despite everybody's complaints that it's an old crappy engine, that engine has been behind many fan games that have been made that are now on Steam. There's many games that are built out of that engine that do a darn good job at creating games for newer people, and it's because it's fairly easy to work with. If they can improve the systems, make it better, make it more effective at what it's doing, improving basically everything there is to do with the options of improving that. If they can do all of that stuff and just make it really crisp, make it really nice, make it really good, make it really just smooth, and if they start handing that out to more studios within Microsoft's umbrella, what that means is that we have more modding that can be imported right into the Xbox console. Amazing, because it's already the way that it works for Fallout 4. And I think, again, if they manage to really up this quality, we can start to see more mods being present on the Microsoft Store, and maybe fewer and fewer of them will be paid mods. Maybe more and more of them will be free, and maybe there'll be a cool system that they implement for that. I don't think the mods. I want people who work on mods to have the ability to say, hey, can I ask for some tips? I think that's fair. I also think it's fair that if that Microsoft and Bethesda should take their cut. I don't think it should be the 60% or whatever it was as is. I think they can drop that down to at least be 50-50 with these creators. That's a really good thing. But even then, if you get a good mod up on that platform and it does well, I mean, you're making a lot of money. If you get 1 million sales on your mod, even if it's at even if it's at $2 and you're making 60% of that, that's a lot of money, guys. Like that's a good thing. So I think this environment of like what potentially is here and what could potentially grow up and be used from this merger, I think we have some really great days ahead of us as far as gaming goes. And one of the biggest key factors of that is the modding thing. I've been a huge, we have made mods. We're huge proponents of mods, and we believe that this is the future of gaming, that more and more gaming and more game development should rely on more mods, not as a reliant that they can't do it right themselves, but that there's people who specialize in things. There's creators out there who specialize in making eyes, right? Like making the irises beautiful. And they do so, they pour hours and hours and hours into these pet projects of theirs that are labors of love, that no studio could possibly, say, yeah, this is what we're going to put we're going to put somebody on this for 60 hours. Like, this is just not something that most of these studios would do, let alone something that, that's more than 100 hours of labor on this kind of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So.
All right.
So yeah, no, I think, yeah, overall we've got a good thing brewing here, and I hope that it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mad Hatter, which I'm starting to suspect is is Zoe Moonlight from our chat, because they said a lot of the same things. But anyway, this questioner on Discord also floats perhaps a new Kingdom Come game as a competitor to Elder Scrolls. Now, I think that while they're similar, the lack of magic kind of puts the Kingdom Come Deliverance and any potential sequels it has in a different category. But it, I mean, I suppose you could put it as a sort of a competitor in that category. But this got me thinking about whether or not there will be a sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance. And I couldn't find any official information on it. Warhorse Studios are working on something, and it's been hinted at, etc., etc. I'm guessing there will probably be another one in that series. I mean, the first one sold 3 million copies from a AA studio, indie studio. I don't even know what you would call them, but that game was a runaway success. Anyway, I didn't find any info on the sequel, but I did find this report from it's from October of last year, that there's going to be a live action adaptation of Kingdom Come. So anyway, I found that interesting. It's from some former Netflix executive. So I don't know where or how or this show or movie would be produced, or where it would be distributed, but yes, it sounds like somebody is, unless something has changed since this was reported 5-ish months ago. Sounds like there's a show or movie coming. So that'd be interesting. And yeah, I would definitely. This also made me want to. Just the screenshot made me want to get back into that game and play it. The only reason that I didn't play it more was I had other things to focus on, schedule wise. I mean, there was a million things coming out around the same time. If it had released now, it would be very, very, very different. But I think, honestly, I really think that indies and lower than AAA games are going to be the winners in 2021. I was just emailed a key for a pre-release key for a game yesterday that I decided I would try out, and it's under embargo, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I will be putting out some sort of video on it, and it's fantastic. I'd never heard of this game before, but I played it for a couple hours. I was like, I've got to get this I've got to tell people about this. It's well made. It's fantastically done. It's probably a game that, sadly, if I had just seen it recommended to me on Steam, I might not have looked at it. But I actually did, receive an email with a review copy key, and it piqued my interest, and so I checked it out. I mean, there are so many good indie titles out there, and I wish we could focus on them all. I wish we could have a super high-viewed channel just focusing on indie games. Like, that would be fantastic. I would love to do that. Unfortunately, it's not feasible for us right now. We do have to focus on what's going to bring in the viewers. But if we can ever do that someday, I would love to do that. I'd love to just play indie games and review them and make recommendations about what you should check out if you are into a certain genre. What's the name of the game? I don't know what watch for a video coming soon. I'll say it is sort of just watch for a video coming soon. Let's put it that way. I just don't want to say anything about it right at this moment. I don't know what's under embargo and what's not. So I'll just be safe and not say anything. But it's very, very... there's just so much, right? And I think these games are going to be the winners of 2021. Looking at the past few years, I mean, you have games like Celeste, which were runaway hits. And again, like Kingdom Come Deliverance, these really small, even Greedfall, which had its issues. It technically was, had some downfalls, but was really well made.
It was a success.
It was a success. It was a success. It had some technical glitches. Let's just put it that way. But in terms of the actual gameplay, story, characters, all of that was super. It was very well done, and I could not believe. It blew me away when I learned how small the team was that had put that game together. I was amazed at what such a small team can do these days. So definitely lots of and I think maybe that's what we need for a little while. We've been burned by so many AAA things. AAA projects. We've been burned so many times over the past few years. I'm sick of it, personally. AAA hype, I'm over AAA hype right now. I didn't think Cyberpunk...
We've been swimming around the toilet for quite a while now, and it's been really, really frustrating because like a bunch of these games that have, they just haven't been offering it, and that's why these other games, these other like low res basic games have been doing so well. And part of the reason why I honestly think, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to play Subverse yet. I don't know if it's going to be great when it comes to gameplay. I know it's going to be great when it comes to one thing in it, but whether that translates to gameplay yet, we don't know yet. But we're going to find out here in about 2 weeks. So,
honestly, your fascination with Subverse is fascinating to me.
It's fascination with a genre and a movement that is literally flipping the table.
It is.
It is literally a studio walking into what is controlled by a whole bunch of gatekeepers and professional pundits and the professional elites going, "Oh my, I do believe this game is going to be so good. This game is the game of the year because it's got a story that I like," but it doesn't actually have a soul, And we all know which game I'm talking about that won the best game of the year. It's not just the game of the year. It's the game of the year in every category it was voted in for. Every single one. It's like at some point you have to realize the audacious stupidity of that statement. The fact that it won every single award, when basically you had the majority of gamers go, "Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't great." Which was my whole complaint. It was okay, it wasn't great. I found the story to be, frankly, a little bit on the pathetic side, as far as like what, like, ooh, revenge, doesn't work. Okay, great. Yeah, I've never heard that story before. I've never seen a Hollywood movie or game depicting how revenge isn't good. Oh, wow, shocker. And the fact that they didn't even do it well, wasn't even written well, didn't even have a good twist. It's like, and that's the game that's voted number one. Again, I have nothing problem with the whatever the things they were showing off there, as far as like their as far as the character's personal preferences. I've never had an issue with that. But it's the fact that they then throw that in your face, is well, if you don't like it, then that's the reason why. It's like, no, I don't like it because I don't like it. Like, period. If I don't like it, I don't like it. So yeah, it's shockingly on it's shockingly annoying that we get this thrown in our faces, and I really don't think that it's a good direction for general games to go in. So, But anyways, we need to wrap this up.
We do need to wrap this up, and so we will wrap it up. So we'll get the outro playing right now, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for the active conversation in the live chat. Thank you for those of you who support us on Patreon and as channel members on our main channel. We really appreciate all of that, especially right now as we're doing some transitions, taking a bit of a monetization hit. We can't monetize this podcast's channel yet. We hope to in the future, but as long as those subscriptions and that watch time keeps coming in, that'll be happening in the future. But anyway, we appreciate those of you who do support us financially, whose names you see appearing in glittering gold throughout the podcast at the top of the screen. Really appreciate you folks. Thank you so much. And if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, any of the places that this podcast goes out to, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you want to join the podcast live, if you want to talk to us in the chat and interact and hear the podcast live, get the latest info as soon as it comes out, definitely hit the link that you'll find in the description below to subscribe to the Triple S Podcasts channel. We also have a channel for edited content, our main channel, where you can find comedy, reviews, other excellent gaming content. I'm totally lost my list here. Game guides, news updates, and tons more. So, lots going on here at the Triple S League. And, yeah, we're having a fun time. All right, everybody. My name is Ash. On behalf of Saib and Moontag, thank you so much for listening. This is a presentation of the Triple S League, and we will talk to you again very soon.